All right, welcome back. So it's time for another Mbsr video. I already made two today. There was my computer crashed, so these are all meant to be the same video. But I've still got a lot of supplemental materials to get through. I've got a lot of reading to get through, so not necessarily behind, but if I don't make this video here, I might be. So the next thing we're going to do is read this article, and then this is the supplemental material. So hopefully I can just get the like mandatory reading out of the way. So they want these two to be read. Basically everything here is not optional. These are all the optional materials, but I'll try to get through everything. The optional materials are oftentimes just short videos, so we can get through easy. Although honestly, like, you know, this is a book, right? So some of them are like, and I don't know what this Rufus is. You know, some of these are reading an entire book, right? I'm not going to do that. Now, if they have the book at the library, that's something I talk about a lot on this channel, and I want my viewers to have library cards and to be tapped into their libraries. And look at that. So there we go. I get a free ebook from the library for this. Now I have full access to a book that would cost me, for the same access that I have, it would cost me $12, and now I have the same. But I've already got too many books checked out, so I'm gonna tag this book, and I'll take it as for later. All right, so there we go. So now when I have more holds, when I have more ability, and honestly, I could probably check a book back in that I'm no longer reading. So let's take a look at that quick. Here's my library. Intuitive eating. I probably don't need that one. Yeah, I definitely don't need this one. This book I actually wasn't a big fan of. So let's manage the loan on this one, and let's return this one early. All right, and then it looked like there was another one that I just really didn't need. So let's it says to please wait, so we'll give it a few more seconds, and after a while though, I'll just hit the back button. Okay, there we go. So now let's do the same for another book. Oh, so these are on my loan shelf. So yeah, these are due in 14 days. These are due in 6 days. We can definitely return this one. There's just no credentials by this person's name, so I'm just not that interested in this. So let's return that. We're gonna return that early. I will have to wait up to like a full minute. It seemed to take. Okay, so not too long. And then I could definitely return this as well. I'm just not there yet. I'm focused on Mbsr and kind of getting my personal stuff to a better place. So I have the mental resilience and the ability to actually sit down and focus rather than being consumed by depression, anxiety, and distress and stress. So this one I won't need either. All right, so that brings me back to this book. If I go back here, I can click on my tags now, and I've got one right here for later. So now I can go and borrow the book. And look at this. If I click read, you know, for the same exact application, right? You know, you would have to pay. You know, for $12, I would get this same thing that I have now for free. So there's the power of your local library. I'm always gonna be saying that, especially if you're from America, like I am, not South America. So if you're from the United States, definitely you have a library. And no matter what your living situation is, you can probably get a library card, or if you can't get one now, you can probably get one later. Don't commit library fraud, but talk to a librarian and they'll get you set up. They'll get you on the right track. If you can't get one now, you'll probably be able to get one later. So yeah, there we go. I just saved myself $12. So there you go. Magic. You're welcome. All right. So next, we're gonna focus on the mandatory stuff, and hopefully get this out of the way. All right. So this is from Time Magazine from forever ago, 2007, back in I guess the good old days. Well, not for me. Back in my early 20s, which were rough. But the article is The Brain: How the Brain Rewires Itself by Sharon Bagley. It was a fairly modest experiment, as these things go, with volunteers trooping into the lab at Harvard Medical School to learn and practice a little five-finger piano exercise. Neuroscientist Alvaro Pascual-Leon instructed the members of one group to play as fluidly as they could, trying to keep the metronomes 60 beats per minute every day for 5 days. The volunteers practiced for 2 hours, then they took a test. At the end of each day's practice session, they sat beneath a coil of wire that sent a brief magnetic pulse into a motor cortex of the brain, located into a strip running from the crown of the head toward the ear. This so-called transcranial magnetic stimulation, TMS, test allows scientists to infer the function of neurons just beneath the coil. In the piano players, the TMS mapped how much of the motor cortex controlled the finger movements needed for the piano exercise. What the scientists found was that after a week of practice, the stretch of the motor cortex devoted to these finger movements took over surrounding areas like dandelions in a suburban lawn. The finding was in line with a growing number of discoveries at the time, showing that greater use of a particular muscle causes the brain to devote more cortisol real estate to it. But Pascual-Leon did not stop there. He extended the experiment by having another group of volunteers merely think about practicing the piano exercise. They played the simple piece of music in their head, holding their hands while still imagining how they would move their fingers. Then they too sat beneath the TMS coil. When the scientists compared the TMS data on the two groups, those who actually tickled the ivories and those who only imagined doing so, they glimpsed a revolutionary idea about the brain: the ability of mere thought to alter the physical structure and function of our gray matter. For what the TMS revealed was that the region of motor cortex that controls the piano playing fingers also expanded in the brains of volunteers who imagined playing the music, just as it had in those who actually played it. Mental practice resulted in a similar reorganization of the brain, Pascual-Leon later wrote. If his results hold for other forms of movement, and there is no reason to think that they don't, I mean, there's kind of no reason to think that they do too, though, right? I don't know. Well, I mean, it's the same mechanism, so I guess there is reason to think that they do. Then mentally practicing a golf swing or a forward pass or a swimming turn could lead to mastery with less physical practice. Even more profound, the discovery had showed that mental training had the power to change the physical structure of the brain. So yeah, and it's pretty intuitive when you're practicing something and you sleep on it. In my experience, there's a point where you could practice all day for 10 hours and you just be up against a wall. But the moment you sleep on it and wake up in the morning is the moment where you actually make the progress you were trying and failing to make all day. So there's definitely something to do with what happens beyond just the process of practicing. It's like sleep is very important. So, overthrowing the dogma. For decades, the prevailing dogma in neuroscience was that the adult human brain is essentially immutable, hardwired, fixed in form and function, so that by the time we reach adulthood, we are pretty much stuck with what we have. Yes, it can create and lose synapses, the connections between neurons that encode memories and learning, and it can suffer injury and degeneration. But this view held that if genes and development dictate that one cluster of neurons will process signals from the eye and another cluster will move the fingers of the right hand, then they'll do that and nothing else until the day you die. There was good reason for lavishly illustrated brain books to show the function, size, and location of the brain structures in permanent ink. The doctrine of the unchanging human brain has had profound ramifications. For one thing, it lowered expectations about the value of rehabilitation for adults who had suffered brain damage from a stroke, or about the possibility of fixing the pathological wiring that underlies psychiatric diseases. And it implied that other brain-based fixities, such as the happiness set point, that according to a growing body of research, a person returns to after the deepest tragedy or the greatest joy, are nearly unalterable. And this is the research that excites me, is that this is alterable. And this is what I'm hoping to get out of this 8-week course. I think I'm kind of naturally susceptible to having that happiness set point pretty low. And you know, this is why ChatGPT and I time and time again come to the same conclusion that I should do this Mbsr training before I do anything else, before I try to get any more certs, before, you know, I like, because I got to raise that happiness set point, because, you know, if I fail time and time again, I'm just going to return back to this happiness set point. And if that happiness set point is low, you know, it's going to be a problem, right? Like depression, anxiety, and stress. It's self-explanatory why you don't want that. So it's kind of self-explanatory why you want a higher happiness set point, so that you're more resilient. But I mean, honestly, I mean, just having a more, you know, pleasant experience. Like, would you rather watch a bad movie or a good one, right? So you can kind of change that set point to where, like, everything that happens in life is like a good movie, right? But research in the past few years has overthrown the dogma. In its place has come the realization that the adult brain retains impressive powers of neuroplasticity, the ability to change its structure and function in response to experience. These aren't minor tweaks either. Something as basic as the function of the visual or auditory cortex can change as a result of a person's experience of becoming blind or deaf at a young age. Even when the brain suffers a trauma late in life, it can rezone itself like a city in a frenzy of urban renewal. If a stroke knocks out, say, the neighborhood of motor cortex that moves the right arm, a new technique called constraint-induced movement therapy can coax next-door regions to take over the function of the damaged area. The brain can be rewired. The first discoveries of neuroplasticity came from studies about how changes in the messages the brain receives through the senses can alter its structure and function. When no transmissions arrive from the eyes in someone who has been blind from a young age, for instance, the visual cortex can learn to hear or feel or even support verbal memory. When signals from the skin or muscles bombard the motor cortex or the somatosensory cortex, which processes touch. The brain expands the area that is wired to move. Sound check, way too late. Say the fingers. In this sense, the very structure of our brain, the relative size of different regions, the strength of connections between them, even their functions, reflects the lives we have led. Like sand on a beach, the brain bears the footprints of the decisions we have made, the skills we have learned, the actions we have taken. Scratching a phantom limb. An extreme example of how changes in the input reaching the brain can alter its structure is the silence that falls over the somatosensory cortex after its owner has lost a limb. Soon after a car crash took Victor Quintero's left arm from just above the elbow, he told neuroscientist V.S. Ramachandran of the University of California that San Diego that he could still feel the missing arm. Ramachandran decided to investigate. He had Victor sit still with his eyes closed and lightly brushed the teenager's left cheek with a cotton swab. Where do you feel that? Ramachandran asked. On his left cheek, Victor answered, and the back of his missing hand. Oh, that's interesting. Ramachandran stroked another part on the cheek. Where do you feel that? On his absent thumb, Victor replied. Ramachandran touched the skin between Victor's nose and mouth. His missing index finger was being brushed, Victor said. A spot just below Victor's left nostril caused the boy to feel a tingling in his left picky. I mean, you could that's easy to imagine, right? You have some itch on your face. You go to scratch it with your left arm. Your left arm's no longer there. It's like, oh, like I forgot that my arm's missing. Like I can imagine this, this sort of feeling pretty easily. And when Victor felt an itch in his phantom hand, see that is what would be like really annoying. If your right arm starts feeling pain or itching, and you go to scratch it, and oh yeah, you lost your arm in an accident. Scratching his lower face relieved the itch. In people who have lost a limb, Ramachandran concluded the brain recognizes the strip of cortex that processes input from the face, takes over the area that originally received input from now a missing hand. Oh, wow. Okay, I didn't know that. That's why touching Victor's face caused him to feel his missing hand. Oh, okay. So the reason people have phantom limbs is because the brain just like repurposed the sensations you would get from that real limb somewhere else in the body to your face. That's fascinating. Similarly, because the regions of cortex that handle sensations from the feet about those that process sensations from the surface of the genitals, some people who have lost a leg report feeling phantom sensations during sex. Ramachandran's was the first report of a living being knowingly experiencing the result of his brain rewiring. And it's a teenager, which is interesting. Probably a lot more neuroplastic. Thinking about thinking. As scientists probe the limits of neuroplasticity, they are finding that mind sculpting can occur even without input from the outside world. The brain can change as a result of the thoughts we think, as with Pascal Lyon's virtual piano players. This has important implications for health. Something as seemingly insubstantial as a thought can affect the very stuff of the brain, altering neuronal connections in a way that can treat mental illness or perhaps lead to a greater capacity for empathy and compassion. It may even dial up the supposedly immovable happiness set point. And I would really like to do that. That is something that is exciting to me. In a series of experiments, for instance, Jeffrey Schwartz and colleagues at the University of California, Los Angeles, found that cognitive behavior therapy, CBT, can quiet activity in the circuit that underlies compulsive behavior, and just as drugs do. So that's one thing ChatGPT and I discussed for like where to go from here. Like obviously sometime I'm gonna have to move on to like getting certs done, but it's not really a priority for me right now. It's not going to be a priority hopefully for a while. But that's somewhere I can go next after completing this MBSR training is to CBT. Schwartz had become intrigued with the therapeutic potential of mindfulness meditation, the Buddhist practice of observing one's inner experiences as if they were happening to someone else. When OCD patients were plagued by an obsessive thought, Schwartz instructed them to think, "My brain is generating another obsessive thought. Don't I know it is just some garbage thrown up by a faulty circuit?" Yeah, and I've utilized that to really good effect. After 10 weeks of mindfulness-based therapy, 12 out of the 18 patients improved significantly. Before and after brain scans showed that activity in the orbital frontal cortex, the core of the OCD circuit, had fallen dramatically and in exactly the way that drugs effective against OCD affect the brain. Schwartz called it self-directed neuroplasticity, concluding that the mind can change the brain. The same is true when cognitive techniques are used to treat depression. Scientists at the University of Toronto had 14 depressed results undergoing CBT, kind of a low sample size, which teaches patients to view their own thoughts differently, to see a failed date, for instance, as not proof that I will never be loved, but as a minor thing that didn't work out. Okay. 13 other patients received paroxetine, the generic form of the antidepressant Paxil. All experienced comparable improvement after treatment. Then the scientists scanned the patient's brains. Our hypothesis was, if you do well with treatment, your brain will have changed in the same way no matter which treatment you received, said Toronto's Lindell Siegel. But no, depressed brains responded differently to the two kinds of treatment, and in a very interesting way. CBT muted overactivity in the frontal cortex, the seat of reasoning, logic, and higher thought, as well as endless rumination about that disastrous day. That would be nice. So this is a good next step. Paroxetine by accident raised activity there. On the other hand, CBT raised activity in the hippocampus of the limbic system, the brain's emotion center. Paroxetine lowered activity there. As Toronto's Helen Mayberg explains, cognitive therapy targets the cortex, the thinking brain, reshaping how you process information and changing your thinking pattern. It decreases rumination and trains the brain to adopt different thinking circuits. As with Schwartz's OCD patients, thinking had changed a pattern of activity, in this case a pattern associated with depression in the brain. Happiness and meditation. Could thinking about thoughts in a new way affect not only such pathological brain states as OCD and depression, but also normal activity? To find out, neuroscientist Richard Davidson of the University of Wisconsin at Madison, my hometown, yay, turned to Buddhist monks, the Olympic athletes of mental training. Some monks have spent more than 10,000 hours of their lives in meditation. Earlier in Davidson's career, he had found that activity greater in the left prefrontal cortex than the right correlates with a higher baseline level of contentment. The relative left/right activity came to be seen as a marker for the happiness set point, since people tend to return to this level no matter whether they win the lottery or lose their spouse. If mental training can alter activity characteristic of OCD and depression, might meditation or other forms of mental training, Davidson wondered, produce changes that underlie enduring happiness and other positive emotions? That's the hypothesis, he says, that we can think of emotions, moods, and states such as compassion as trainable mental skills. With the help and encouragement of the Dalai Lama, which let's Google for the Dalai Lama, because I put out a we read something by Deepak Chopra, and I kind of went pretty far in like expressing my opinions, and we read sections of the Wikipedia article regarding him. So let's just skim the Wikipedia article for the Dalai Lama. Okay, so the Dalai Lama has a really large Wikipedia article, really important, relevant figure to bring up in this context for sure. Yeah, so I guess, yeah, so this is what I was looking for. A February 2023 video shows the Dalai Lama in a city in India asking a boy for a kiss on the lips and then to suck his tongue. He later apologized for the incidents and expressed regret through a statement that claimed he often teases people he meets in an innocent and playful way, even in public and before cameras, and regrets the incident. So yeah, this is kind of what I was thinking about. So yeah, it's you can't there's no in my opinion there's no gods among us, right? Like everyone can make mistakes, and nobody's perfect, right? So like but it looks like from what I'm seeing here that's kind of the only, I was expecting to see like a whole section, but it looks like I'm not really seeing anything like that, and the Dalai Lama makes a lot of sense to talk about in this context. So all right, so okay. With the help and encouragement of the Dalai Lama, Davidson recruited Buddhist monks to go to Madison and meditate inside his functional magnetic resonance imaging (fMRI) tube while he measured their brain activity during various mental states. For comparison, he used undergraduates who had no experience with meditation but got a crash course in the basic techniques. During the generation of pure compassion, a standard Buddhist meditation technique, brain regions that keep track of what is self and what is other became quieter, the fMRI showed, as if the subjects experienced meditators as well as novices open their minds and hearts to others. More interesting were the differences between the so-called adepts and novices. In the former, there was significantly greater activation in the brain network linked to empathy and maternal love. Connections from the frontal regions, so active during compassion meditation, to the brain's emotional regions seemed to become stronger with more years of meditation practice, as if the brain had forged more robust connections between thinking and feeling. But perhaps the most striking difference was in an area of the left prefrontal cortex, the site of activity that marks happiness. While monks, not Marx, while monks, whether or not they're named Mark, were generating feelings of compassion, activity in the left prefrontal swamped activity in the right prefrontal associated with negative moods to a degree never before seen from purely mental activity. By contrast, the undergraduate controls, so what do you expect? They're undergrads, showed no differences between the left and right prefrontal cortex. This suggests, says Davison, that the positive state is a skill that can be trained. I would like to see, like, somebody who's not, investing maybe like $50,000 and like literally can have their investment go bust if they get like an F in their class, and like are spending like all of their evenings and weekends just getting drunk. I would like to see them be a part of the control, but whatever. Well, let's do something fun after this. So I'm going to close it out with this last paragraph. For the monks as well as the patients with depression or OCD, the conscious act of thinking about their thoughts in a particular way arranged the brain. The discovery of neuroplasticity, in particular the power of the mind to change the brain, is still too new for scientists, let alone the rest of us, to grasp its full meaning. But even as it offers new therapies for illnesses of the mind, it promises something more fundamental, a new understanding of what it means to be human. Perfect. Okay, so what I want to do that's fun is take all of this and put it all into ChatGPT and have a conversation. And I don't know where my voice went, but that's okay. Hopefully I can get it later. All right, so this is a pretty old article. It came out in 2007. So like what is the modern day 2024 version of this? Like, did it support what was written here, or did it debunk what was written here? Like, what's the scientific consensus of the modern day, and how does it compare to when this article was written in 2007? So it became more research supported this conclusion. Yeah. So the continued evidence for neuroplasticity. It became applied in rehabilitation. Brain computer interfaces. There was recently an 8-hour video devoted to Elon Musk's Neuralink on the Lex Fridman channel. Mental practice and imagery. So studies have shown that athletes, musicians, and other professionals can benefit from mental imagery and visualization techniques, which enhance performance and induce measurable changes in brain activity. Yeah. Research on mindfulness and meditation has expanded. Studies have continued to show these can lead to changes in brain structure and function, such as increased cortical thickness in areas associated with attention and emotional regulation. So right there, why am I doing this on my professional channel and not my personal channel? Attention and emotional regulation is basically the most valuable professional skills you can have. So like, forget about an AWS cert, forget about even the CCIE. Give me that, and then if I have it in abundance, then I can get those certs next, right? But I was failing those certs, and I didn't have the attention to spend to pass them, so I had to change course. Yeah, so the concept of self-directed neuroplasticity, where individuals can consciously reshape their brain's functions through cognitive practices, is now widely accepted and used in therapeutic settings. So tell me more about this. Like, what is the standard protocol for this? All right, and then there's a lot more. There's actually new insights in development. There's a more nuanced understanding. Oh, and there's also because of course there is, right? So just as you can have your set point for happiness, attention, and emotional regularization increased, you can also decrease it, right? So there's a better understanding of maladaptive neuroplasticity, where the brain's ability to change can lead to negative outcomes. So you can make that happiness set point go down, such as if you have chronic pain or post-traumatic stress disorder. So that can be like an easy win to get it back up, right? You can get those really get that stuff taken care of, right? All right, so genetic and epigenetic factors. Learn about that. Impact of lifestyle. Oh, this is a good one. So there's growing evidence that lifestyle factors such as diet, exercise, sleep, stress management can significantly influence neuroplasticity. For example, aerobic exercise has been shown to enhance brain plasticity and cognitive function, especially in older adults. So yeah, a lot of really successful people have like a jogging habit, right? Like it's no coincidence, right? So yeah, this is kind of one of the biggest answers in the last few decades, is that no, it's your grandma's not living to 95, 100 because she has super genes, right? Your grandma lives a very like, her lifestyle isn't fun. Like she's on point with the diet, the exercise, the sleep, the stress management. Like people aren't living that long because they're smoking cigarettes and drinking whiskey and they have perfect genes, right? Like lifestyle is a major factor. And yeah, so research has highlighted the role of social interactions and environmental enrichment. Yeah, so particularly in children and aging adults. So this is really key: social interactions and environmental enrichment. So if you're not involved in like a community club, I'm involved in the Juggle Club, and I'm in one band now, but I was in two bands. I'm thinking about joining the other band up again. Definitely get out there and get a get some good social interactions throughout the week. So let's see here. So okay, so transcranial magnetic stimulation is commonly used now. The use of neurofeedback has gained popularity. So everything was just further confirmed, and in fact, it was confirmed so well that it is now being practically implemented in effective ways. So tell me more about this. So the standard protocol is CBT. It's also mindfulness cognitive-based therapy, MBCT, and mindfulness-based stress reduction, MBSR. So the next step would be MBCT after MBSR. So let's Google for a free course. You know what? MBCT is probably included in this. We don't need to keep going down this path. Basically, I just want, as long as I can focus better on my certification efforts and get those out of the way, that's what really matters. I want to get the AWS. I want to get the Palo Alto for firewalls. And I want to get my CCNP back. And then I also kind of want the NVIDIA as well. So I want to get 4 certs, but it's not a priority right now. Okay, so then there's ACT training, there's neurofeedback, guided imagery. So yeah, for me, this is great. Rank them in terms of effectiveness, and rank which one would make the most sense to do next after having completed an 8-week Mbsr course. All right, and I don't know what happened to my voice. I need that voice. Microphone sound permissions are on, so I don't know what's going on. Maybe if I mute it and then unmute it. So rank. Okay, so yep, it ranked CBT as number 1. So CBT is I think yeah. So free. Let's see if there's a free course for this. Yeah, so here's a free CBT workbook, free courses there. So I'm really happy with this with this Mbsr course. Yeah, it might be worth finding another course. So yeah, I feel like this CBT could be a really good one. Yeah, this one actually looks pretty solid. It's about finding the right. Okay, so it looks like the answer is clear. After completing this Mbsr training course for 8 weeks, the next step that makes the most sense is, oh, interesting. So it looks like CBT actually might not be the next best step. It looks like the best step after completing the Mbsr course depends on my goals a little bit. But if I want to continue the skills that I've gained and then add cognitive strategies to them, then MBCT or ACT is the best. If I'm looking to extend into new areas of mental training or address specific thought patterns, CBT or neurofeedback might be the best. And I'm not really looking to do that. So it sounds like for me, MBCT is probably the best. M as in Michael, BCT. MBCT. Sorry, there are some typos here, but the context should make it clear what I'm saying. So, yeah, can you give me like a list of free online resources that I can use to go next to after I complete this course, please? Okay, so we got the free mindfulness project, positive psychology, and the Oxford Mindfulness Center. That should be a good one. Oh, but it's not free. It's not free. And they're not loading. I don't know why. But anyways, that's it for that. So the next one is let's try to knock it out. This is a long video. Yeah, but I don't have to be anywhere for a while. So let's knock out this next one from David R. Hamilton, who has a PhD. And hopefully some of these will load up. I'm not sure what's going on here. It might be on my end. So let's see if it's on my end. Nope, my internet looks good. Oh, I love seeing that. That makes my day. Definitely not on my end. I think these are just dead links. Okay. I think what happened is it was on my end, but I'm kind of late to the party in troubleshooting that. So yeah, so we could use this. So here's courses. I wonder if UT University. That'd be cool. I could go to the University of Texas and take a paid course or an online course there. That'd be cool. Yeah, so get involved. So I could request a workshop. I could for my group. So okay. So honestly, it does look like there's kind of nothing there. So yeah, this is at Mindful UT. So there's really nothing there. All right. Here's free resources. All right, kind of nothing here either. This is the best course on the internet, definitely for free, in my opinion. This is the best I found over anything else. So with that being said, let's knock off the week 2 reading, and then all we'll have left is the formal and informal practices and the optional stuff, which is okay not to get all the way through. And some of them it's not possible to get all the way through. It's reading an entire book. So that being said, this is a little bit more recent, 2010. It's from the Huffington Post. David R. Hamilton, How Meditation Affects the Gray Matter of the Brain. I like to meditate. It makes me feel at ease, and I am convinced that the sense of calm it produces helps me to handle the daily challenges of my life. There are, of course, times where I don't keep up my daily practice of sitting quietly for 10 to 15 minutes, but these are the times in life when I experience more stress. And I will say I kind of don't like to meditate. Like, I feel like it's beneficial, especially when I do the HRV, but I just, I kind of don't like to meditate. And then I feel like there's a little bit of a scammy component behind it too, where you could potentially be paying someone to have you sit. What better thing to sell someone but a chance to sit and be quiet and breathe, right? It's like, give me money and in return you just sit there and like listening to a recording I made a few years ago. Like, what better scam in the world is there than that, right? But I believe it, right? The science seems to support it. So stress affects everyone. I don't know. And you can do it for free with this course, right? Or you can go to your local library and get a book. In fact, that's something I haven't looked at yet. So mindfulness based CT. Yeah, let's see what we got. So there we go. We got a workbook. We've got a book from John Kabat-Zinn, the same author who inspired this course. We've got self-compassion workbook. We've got an audiobook. So lots of stuff. I don't know a single person who doesn't get stressed, but unfortunately it plays a major role in illness. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, in fact, up to 90% of doctor visits in the U.S. may be stress-related. Meditation is an antidote to stress, just as an aspirin can counter a headache. A regular practice can be a major boost to health. And again, why am I doing this on my professional channel and not my personal channel? Because being able to handle stress is one of the most valuable, I found is a really valuable professional skill. It calms the nervous system. It's good for the immune system, and the kind of job I have, I've seen someone knock out, cell tower reception for an entire like region of a state, right? So it's like, knocking out like 911 call centers and stuff just through hitting the enter key, right? in the wrong way, right? So it's like, yeah. it's not just about dealing with stress. It's about that mindful awareness, right? Are you just going to hit enter mindlessly? Well, then you might really make some mistakes. It calms the nervous system. It's good for the immune system. It's also good for the heart. It helps produce nitric oxide, not nitrous oxide. That's laughing gas. In the arteries, dilating them and reducing blood pressure. It also smooths heart rhythms. But thanks to an explosion of brain research, we now know that it also physically impacts our gray matter. One study to show this was led by scientists at the Center for Functionally Integrative Neuroscience at Aarhus University in Denmark, comparing MRI scans of the brains of meditators with the brains of non-meditators. They showed that meditation causes actual physical changes in the gray matter of the lower brainstem. Meditation makes the gray matter grow. In another study, scientists Giuseppe Pagoni and Milos Sikic from the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences at Emory University in Atlanta compared the volume of gray matter in the brains of people performing Zen meditations with another group who were not meditators. The volume of our gray matter normally reduces as we get older, and this is what scientists found in the group of non-meditators. But for the meditators, their gray matter hadn't reduced at all with age. According to the scientists, meditation had a neuroprotective effect on the meditators. It protected the brain from some of the effects of aging. This mirrors some 2008 Harvard research that analyzed the genes of meditators against non-meditators. It was the first study of its kind to measure the genetic impact of meditation and found that 2,209 genes were differently activated in long-term meditation practitioners compared with non-meditators. And even looking at novice meditators, they found that 1,561 genes were affected after only 8 weeks of meditation practice. They concluded only 8 weeks, right? So there we go. I'm taking an 8-week course. They concluded that the genetic effects of the meditation may have long-term physiological consequences, one of which was a slowing down of the rate of aging. And that's something that a lot of people there's kind of a culture and community around measuring this using various tests. I used to be part of that culture, but I gave that up. So, it might have been interesting to see what the results are, but I feel like it's not kind of a honest culture. Like, there's a lot of money to be made in this space, a lot. So like a lot of it is just kind of selling you stuff that you don't need. Like, for example, I used a company for functional health for oral care, and it told me to brush and floss twice a day. Like, I know, yeah, like I don't need a test to show that. So it's like, these tests, like if your oral care is bad, what you have to do to make it better. You just have to brush and floss more consistently twice a day. Like, you have to be really consistent and on the ball with it. There's not going to be like some magic like test result that'll make it so that all you have to do is like rub your teeth with your pinky finger 4 times and now all your problems are cured, right? It's like, what's going wrong and you know how to fix it. You're just not doing it because you haven't made the effort, right? Like, that's the really exciting thing about this, right? Is you can use CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and fix those habits. So that's what I'm trying to do, and I'm working a lot with ChatGPT to do that because my lifestyle habits are pretty bad, and they always have been. We have all heard the stories of people under extreme stress whose hair turns white in a matter of weeks. Yeah, and my hair is turning white. My beard is turning white for the first time. We know that stress can speed up aging, so why should it be a surprise to us that a technique to combat stress should be able to slow aging? There are many different forms of meditation. A study at Massachusetts General Hospital examined the impact of the Buddhist insight meditation on the brain. Insight meditation is a technique of moving our attention, so it's like a body scan meditation, over the body or focusing on our breathing, so the body scan meditation. The study found that it caused an increase in thickness in the prefrontal cortex in the brain, the part just above the eyes and associated with attention. Several areas of the brain are active when we meditate, but most pronounced is the prefrontal cortex because when we meditate, we are focusing our attention on something, whether that be the body, our breathing, a word, a candle, or even a spiritual ideal. When this area is active, just like a muscle being exercised, it grows. Neuroscientists use this analogy to describe the way the brain changes. When we exercise a muscle, it becomes larger and denser with muscle mass. In a similar way, when we exercise any part of the brain, which we do when we meditate, it becomes larger and denser with neural mass, gray matter. The phenomenon is known as neuroplasticity and describes how the brain actually changes throughout life. When I attended university, I learned that the brain is hardwired once we reach young adulthood. The analogy used is that when we are young, the brain is a bit like dough, which can be kneaded into various forms. But when we reach young adulthood, we put the dough in the oven and it comes out with a bread crust on it. The brain is then hardwired, we are taught. But this analogy has since been abandoned. We now know that we never put the dough in the oven. Our gray matter is ever changing as we experience life, as we learn, walk, run, dance, and when we concentrate, as we do when we meditate. Our gray matter is changing until the last seconds of our life. It grows even with our last breath. All right, and then here's the references on that. Yeah, let's add this to the chat I had going, and see what ChatGPT has to say about this. So, yeah, so just a summary of everything we read. So like, okay, so tell me this. So like, based on this science, like, how important is meditation? Like what should I be willing to give up to do meditation instead? Like, for example, people all over the world ideally should be brushing their teeth for 4 minutes a day, right? In the morning and in the evening, right? But what if instead of brushing their teeth for 4 minutes a day, sorry, there are some typos, but the context should make it clearer. So instead of doing that, what if they spend 4 minutes meditating a day? Like, it sounds like the benefits of meditation are so profound that might be a thing to consider. Do you agree? Yeah. See, this is where like it gets a bit crazy for me, right? It's like, oh, meditation has all these benefits: stress reduction, improved focus and attention, emotional regulation, neuroplasticity, cardiovascular health, immune function. Okay, well, then 4 minutes extra of it a day probably makes a lot of sense. So, and it sounds like it's so. It's so effective that it might be worth the trade-off of skipping a dental routine. But I don't think anyone would say, yeah, you're right, because nobody wants tooth decay, gum disease, and their teeth to rot and fall out. So this is where it kind of bursts the bubble. This is where it kind of bursts the bubble for me that like meditation is a real thing, right? Because I think that's very reasonable, right? It's like you brush your teeth for 4 minutes a day when instead you could meditate and you could have reduced stress, improve focus and attention, emotional regulation, neuroplasticity, cardiovascular health, and immune function. But like nobody in their right mind would actually do that, right? Because they don't want their teeth to rot out. So this is where it's like, as beneficial as meditation might be, it must not actually be that beneficial. Otherwise, more people would be happy to make that trade-off and stop brushing their teeth so that they have more time to meditate. Yeah, and meditation effects are cumulative and become more profound with regular and consistent practice. Yeah, so right, exactly. But I think just about everyone would agree, even the people who are like all about meditation, that if you can only do one or the other, you should definitely brush your teeth, which for me kind of bursts the bubble and like pops the balloon of like, oh, meditation is real and worth it, right? Because like I feel like it should be obvious that if meditation is so beneficial to you, you should prioritize it over oral care. But obviously it's not as beneficial as something like oral care. Right. Yeah, more subtle mean BS, right? It doesn't actually do anything. Whereas brushing your teeth does. Without proper oral care, negative consequences are almost guaranteed and can be severe and painful. Yeah, so like meditation in my mind is kind of a scam, right? Because if it were so good, then people who don't brush their teeth and meditate instead would have better health outcomes. But I think that's obviously not true. Yeah, exactly. And also body weight training too. Right, and also like home body weight training, like calisthenics or even like weightlifting or like jogging, cardiovascular exercise. I just feel like meditation is kind of a scam because like, okay, there might be benefits, but compared to like having a good oral care routine and having a consistent and regular exercise routine, it seems like meditation would be silly to do. It seems like it's just a waste of time compared to doing more effective things. Yeah, like it doesn't matter if it's beneficial. Like it's beneficial to like do all sorts of things that just aren't practical or you know effective at actually causing benefits compared to doing something else. Yeah, oral care is directly connected to overall health with links to heart disease and diabetes. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of. I'm still a skeptic. I'm still very much a skeptic. I'm trying my best to have an open mind. And then when it comes to something like oral care, if your oral care routine is in the trash, a good first step is Mbsr, and then after that, the cognitive CBT to establish that routine. So it can help establish better routines. So I think it makes sense. ChatGPT and I again and again come to the conclusion to do this. So I'm gonna keep going. But with that, that's the end of all the reading. So all I've got left is the optional materials, and then one more round of practice tomorrow. So let's knock off at least one more supplemental material. So we got. Oh, and I do need to head out in a few minutes here. So. Yeah, I got time for this one, and then I gotta head out.
Now, this is important because the prefrontal cortex tonically modulates or inhibits the limbic system, which is our emotional system. So if you have a weak attention system or prefrontal cortex, there'll be nothing. Your emotions will be really reactive. And a really good example of this syndrome, which is in neuroscience called hypofrontality, or not enough upfront, is adolescence. So adolescents, our limbic systems are kicked into gear. So we got lots of lots of passion, lots of emotions, and no prefrontal cortex to limit that because it hasn't developed completely yet. Not till sort of when you get out of college, maybe you'll have some control. So literally, it's emotions out of control. And I think we all remember our adolescence. And I don't know about you, but it wasn't a particularly happy time. So another thing coming out of neuroscience, which I think is probably one of the most important discoveries. It's not even a discovery anymore. It's more like a principle in neuroscience that I think has the ability to change the way we think about ourselves. Is something known as experience-dependent neuroplasticity. And basically, our brain changes with experience, and we get good at what we practice. So that's the very basic way of thinking about it. So if you exercise your physical body, certain muscle groups get stronger, certain movements get easier, eventually they become effortless and automatic. The brain is no different. If the neural networks that you exercise become stronger, and eventually the thought patterns and mental habits that are being represented by those neural networks get stronger and become effortless and automatic. And the ones that you don't use, just like if you don't use certain muscles, they get weaker. And the ones that you never even considered using, well, they're not going to really grow either. So, and the second thing to know about neuroplasticity is that the most powerful way to change your brain is not actually medication. It's actually behavior, because that's what it was designed to change in relation to. And not just any behavior, specifically mental behavior or mental habit. So William James called habit the basic structure of mental life. So habit, I'm going to be talking a lot about habit. So when you exercise your physical body, you know which muscles are the strongest because they're the biggest. And when you pick up something, it's easy. So that's easy to know. But how would you know which neural networks are the strongest? How would you know that? And the answer is that they're the ones that are the most easily activated and the most easily available to your consciousness. So we're going to do a little audience participation here. I need your help for this one. So I want you to, I'm going to give you a mental thought to bring to mind. I'm going to time you to see how quickly you can bring it to mind. And I know that you're quick because you all got tickets to this thing and they sold out in 60 seconds. So I know you're quick at some things. OK, so if you feel comfortable, close your eyes so you're not distracted. And I want you to bring to mind something you don't like about yourself. OK? OK, you can open your eyes now. And that was about 3 seconds. Can you raise your hand if you just couldn't think of anything? OK. So we got like maybe 3 out of 120.
And I'll admit I was not mindfully aware in that. So let's see. I kind of heard the question, but I got a text that I was thinking about responding to, and I was preparing for. I gotta leave the house in about 15 minutes. So let's hear that again.
Something you don't like about yourself. I know you're quick at some things. Need your help for this one. Easily activated. When you exercise your physical body, you know which muscles are the strongest because they're the biggest. And when you pick up something, it's easy. So that's easy to know. But how would you know which neural networks are the strongest? How would you know that? And the answer is that they're the ones that are the most easily activated and the most easily available to your consciousness. So we're going to do a little audience participation here. I need your help for this one. So I want you to, I'm going to give you a mental thought to bring to mind. I'm going to time you to see how quickly you can bring it to mind. And I know that you're quick because you all got tickets to this thing and they sold out in 60 seconds. So I know you're quick at some things. OK, so if you feel comfortable, close your eyes.
OK, closing my eyes.
Distracted. And I want you to bring to mind something you don't like about yourself.
OK, bringing it to mind. Obesity.
OK. OK, you can open your eyes now. And that was about 3 seconds. Can you raise your hand if you just couldn't think of anything? OK. So we got like maybe 3.
Umbrella Man. Of course Umbrella Man can't think of anything. It's Umbrella Man. Look, he's wearing a suit. He's like all like slicked up. He's got the shiny like bowling ball grease on his perfectly groomed shaved head with probably got some scents going there. Man, Umbrella Man, hats off to you. I believe it. I believe it. What's there not to like?
120. That's a very strong neural network you got going there, and that's so you're basically Olympic athletes of self-criticism. Good job. So
Except
that's a
for
strong neural
Umbrella
network,
Man.
and you didn't get there just because that just happens to be strong. We know that it gets strong because you practice. And so you've actually been practicing that habit probably for a really long time, and probably every day, and probably every hour, and maybe even moment to moment. And I've chose that particular neural network and mental habit because that is one of the foundational ones. When it gets really big, it becomes major depression. So we know it's not one that we necessarily want to get good at, but here we are. We're all
Okay, so I guess the mental habit of always having in the front of your mind something you don't like about yourself can cause major depression. So yeah, for me, like, the obesity was a problem, but I wasn't always obese. Like, so I guess during the pandemic, during all the other craziness that happened in the United States, that was all to the front of my mind. I was glued to the TV screen. I was dealing with I was just dealing with a lot. I think everyone was, and that was all at the front of my mind. And yeah, I think I got some depression out of that.
all really good at it, and it seems to have a purpose, but it's I can tell you that it tends to lead to problems. So a couple questions. One, did you know that you were practicing that all the time? Two, did you want to be practicing it? Do you want to be good at that? Is that really something that you want to be good at?
And the answer is, for me, is obviously no, and that's why I try to I got back into music more than I ever have, and yeah, it's been. I'm in a much better place than I used to be. I used to be pretty good when I was juggling like all the time, but even then it was a lot. Like, I was blowing out my elbows. I've got like chronic elbow tendonitis from like how much practicing I was doing. I just like
The answer is no to both of those things. What other unintentional, what other neural networks are you strengthening unintentionally? Because the judgment neural network is really related to, it has a couple other modules. And if you're that quick to find fault with yourself, how quickly are you going to be able to find fault with others? Or find fault with, I was going to say your spouse, but looking at you guys, I don't know how many of you actually have those, but your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whatever, your children, other people's religions, that kind of thing. And I can't help. I've been watching the news, actually, and I think we all have been watching the news recently, and it's really hard not to think about the people that have been celebrating Osama bin Laden's death. And when I first saw.
All right, this is very old. 9 years ago.
On the New York Times, I watched one of those like little web videos. I thought, wow, we're practicing hatred, and I'm not sure that we really want to be practicing that. I mean, I really don't think that the people who are practicing that, and we don't really want to be doing that. It's yet another habit.
I mean, honestly, like. So that would have been 2015. In what year did Osama bin Laden die? Oh, okay. So it was about that time.
That we're just sort of unintentionally practicing and getting really good at. And as we know from neuroscience, when we practice these things, they become automatic and effortless. Wow, automatic and effortless hatred. Like, doesn't sound like a recipe for world peace. So. So what is it that we?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, right? It's like, how do you react to a death? It's like, for people who don't practice mindfulness, you just react the way you act, right? It's an automatic thing. It's reactive. But if you develop that reactivity, you can decide how to react, and that's the whole goal.
That we do want to practice. What are some qualities of mind that we actually want? So here I'm gonna.
For me, that non-reactivity is a quality I want. I want to be able to like think about how I go about something.
Ask you again to play along. I want you to think about someone that you admire. Maybe somebody from your childhood that had a particularly positive influence on your life. Okay. And then think about what is the exact quality that person has that you admire. So I'd like to hear.
Yeah. So for me, it's my music teacher. I just really liked how he, first of all, he was the best musician I've ever got to spend time with and got to take lessons from, pretty much. Pretty much, yeah. And then I just liked how he was like a really solid entrepreneur. Like, he was running a really good, successful home studio. And I really liked how he was himself, too. Like, this is kind of more than I want to say on my professional channel, but he's so one of the people I looked up to most was a homosexual man, and I'm heterosexual. That I just don't have any doubts about that. It's pretty self-evident to me. Um, and yeah, so it was kind of a, you know, it was a strange situation where I was looking up, you know, to someone who really wasn't a lot like me. So yeah, it kind of put me in a situation where, you know, I had to, you know, develop this respect for this man, not because he was like me, right? Which I think a lot of people can benefit from that, because, you know, if the only people you can respect are people like you just don't have a lot of respect to give. So you should be able to respect somebody completely unlike you, you know, for other qualities that they have. Like, you know, he was the best musician I've ever gotten to study with for an extended period of time. Yeah, successful entrepreneur. Really fun guy too. Like really like quirky, eccentric. You know, but kind of a, you know, a fun, interesting person. You know, really brilliant person. He recently published a book. So he's an author now. Yeah, multi-talented, piano, violin, viola, just you know, he can do it, right? And it's yeah, really that's my answer. I don't want to go too deep into that because this is my professional channel.
Some of the ones that you came up with. Humor, strength. Was that?
So for me, for me, it was, you know, it was the skill, right? Like, the best musician I've ever studied with. You know, I'd like to say patience and kindness, but you know, those were rough times. That was Wisconsin, after they passed the legislation that convinced my teacher to flee the state. He is a very patient, kind person, but he kind of ran out of it, given the political climate up in Wisconsin. So, but yeah, that's the big thing I respect him for, is for the courage to be himself. Like, I really respect that, and I you know, hope I can do that in my own life, even if it's not going to be the same way for the same reasons.
Caring, energetic, perseverance, patience, kindness. Okay, I think we got some ideas there. I didn't hear any hatred, so maybe there's just, you know, I'm just not seeing that coming out of people. You know.
But yeah, the raw skill is the thing. I was, you know, it's like that's kind of a freeing thing, right? Because, like, no matter who you are, if you develop a raw skill in something to a ridiculously high level, like, you're gonna get respect from some people, right? So it's like, it doesn't matter what your flaws are. It kind of matters what your strengths are more. And I'm not saying that, you know, he had flaws for his you know, that I'm saying that, you know, it's easy to respect people, even if you don't have a lot in common with them. And that's not to say I didn't have a lot in common with him either. You know, we were both, like, I was interested in becoming a classical musician, and he was a professional classical musician. So I feel like people, as different as they can be, you know, they're really not that different in the end.
When I first did that exercise, I chose my third grade teacher, who was Mrs. Barbado, and I also chose kindness and warmth as being the quality. And I remember looking inside. So the next thing I want you to do is look inside yourself to see how much of that quality you have.
What quality? I wasn't listening.
So when I looked inside myself to look for kindness and warmth, I pretty much found nothing.
I find it. I'm a very kind, warm person.
And more, I was just kind of a grumpy bitch.
Oh, that's too bad.
Happens, you know.
Yeah, I don't
relate
relate to that at all.
When you looked inside and thought, wow, I have none of the qualities that I admire, that can, you know, it can be kind
No,
of
I have a lot of qualities that I admire for sure.
I kind of have a thinking heart about that. But based on what we know from contemplative neuroscience and what we know about neuroplasticity, we can actually start to think of these things like kindness, energy, compassion, generosity, not as innate qualities that you have or don't have, but as actually skills that you can cultivate through practice and training. And we know from the neuroscience and the studies now that these practices actually do cultivate these qualities. And we have a whole array of we have access to a whole array of practices that can cultivate these qualities. And we also know that the neural networks that subserve these qualities can be modified through training. So if you slept through the first part of my talk, here's my recap. One, happiness is not about getting what you want. It's about the mental habits that you practice from moment to moment. I hope
it's almost you can think of it as like your weight, right? It's like, are you obese? Are you thin? Well, you can change that, right? Like semaglutide, if nothing else, that'll drop some pounds. So it's are you happy or are you sad? It's the same thing. Like you can change that, and you can change it through your habits, like you can with your weight if you count calories and all that, and like swap out calorie dense foods for calorie sparse foods. So yeah, that's kind of how I'm thinking about it.
You know what they are, and I hope that they're serving. I hope that they're going in the direction that you want. And I think that this new convergence of fields has a very hopeful message that we can become the people that we admire, and like Gandhi said, we can become the change that we want to see in the world.
All right, so that's all I got time for. I'm going to a social event, which is awesome. So when the next video will be so a lot of good progress in this video. Finished all the mandatory materials. Next video will be including more supplemental materials, and we'll be doing the final round of the formal practice, and then be doing more of the informal practice. So thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.